Good afternoon, class. Am I audible? Yes. Online, please confirm whether I'm audible or not. Okay. Okay. So today being first class, right? We'll just have, when you look at the structure of class today, for initial 1 hour, I would discuss about what is the importance or relevance of the subject when it comes to examination. We would fundamentally look at what is the mark distribution at different stages. Then from there, we will look into a different approach of learning geography, for the reason that I call it as generalization based learning of geography. For the reason that when you look at geography as a subject, you see that whole of your geography is fundamentally dependent upon one particular relation that you would see is cause and effect. That you have some cause, and regarding that particular concept, based upon that particular cause, you have a corresponding effect that it is resulting in. And whenever we see some specific change that is happening with respect to a cause, we will see that there is a corresponding change in the effect which is happening, right? This is generally a kind of thing that you fundamentally observe in geography as well as economy. Economy may be similar kind of implications, so there is some cause, there is some effect. Very simple. So iski hisab se we will see that roughly around 10 generalizations that I would be telling today with respect to geography as a subject. Now, moving on to the first part of the lecture, if I have to talk about, that is, when I look at the exam relevance of geography, I know that, I think you would have seen your prelims paper 2024, dekha hai na? Right? Geography was determining to a larger extent. Iska matlab, roughly around 17 to 19 questions were there from geography. And that is a little more conventional thing from the side of UPSC this year, that generally such peculiar trends of overemphasis on geography was seen before 2015. Matlab 2013, 2014, 2015. When you look at those years, you would fundamentally see that then geography, pure conceptual geography was more. But whereas when you look at over 16, 17, and very, very specifically from 18 onwards, we observe that it is not only conceptual geography where they were asking more, but they were also emphasizing on factual geography to a larger extent. And when you observe a particular trend there, you will see that there was a convergence that was existing with respect to geography and environment, which we call it as environmental geography, right? Over a period of time, once I talk about the exam relevance, then I would talk about how are we, or what aspects of geography are we going to discuss as we move across the lectures. Now, when we look at the exam relevance, we see that in prelims examination, we have geography as it is, right? A classic testimonial was 2024. And when I look at average composition for last 5-6 years, it is roughly forming around 12 to 15 questions. Iska matlab, roughly around how many marks, I would say? Roughly around 30 marks, right? So that is what is the weightage when it comes to geography as a subject. And you also have to understand there is an implicit weightage which is existing with respect to geography as a subject. What is that implicit weightage that you see? That if your geography is good, you would definitely have good environment. Because at the end of the day, you have to understand that geography is all about setting the context for environment. Depending upon the soil, depending upon the climate, depending upon the water, depending upon the temperature conditions or pressure conditions or humid conditions or wind systems, any of these. When any of these systems are fundamentally existing, I see it is setting a context to a particular ecosystem or environment. So that is what is one implicit advantage that I have. If I have good geography, I will definitely have good environment. So iska matlab, that weightage will also be there, and you know that prelims will have convergence of both civil services as well as forest service wala prelims, dono ek hi hai. And just because we have forest service prelims in convergence, we would see roughly around from environment 15 to 22 questions is what is the weightage when it comes to environment as such, right? So good geography good environment. In total, if you observe, 15 plus roughly around 20 it is. 35 questions is in your basket, depending upon your understandings of geography. Now, when you move to the mains examination, I see that the subject being divided into different papers to a larger extent. I know it is explicitly present in GS1. GS1 में पता है ना, 3 subject, history, society or geography, if you have to broadly classify. And when I look at geography, I see that when you go back and refer to PYQs of GS1, be it 2015, 2016, after 2013. After 2013, you know that there was a change in the pattern. And after 2013, if you go back and refer to question papers, generally, you will find that question number 4, 5, 6, 7, 14, 15, 16, and 17 of GS1. Right? This is one peculiar trend that we understand what is the pattern of the examination or what is the pattern of the question paper. Because in every subject, in every paper, be it GS1, be it GS2, be it GS3, be it GS4, you have to understand that if you go back and refer to the pattern of the subject which is put, generally in GS1, you will observe question number 1, 2, 3, and 11, 12, 13 coming from history. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 14, 15, 16, 17 coming from geography. 8, 9, 10, and 18, 19, 20 coming from society. Sir, why are you talking about these numbers when it comes to examination? You have to fundamentally understand that you can't be good at every subject. Because at the end of the day, all of us are what, my dear? Human beings, right? Is there some robot sitting in the class? No, definitely not. Hopefully, yes. So इसका मतलब है कि we will have some limitations. And I cannot be master of every subject that I read when it comes to civil services. So whenever we are attempting our question paper, whenever we are writing mains, we would look into what is our comfort area and we will start the paper with that comfort area. Because we know there is a set question, there is a set space which is given for the corresponding question. And if I'm able to understand what are the question numbers, don't you think I would directly go to that particular question and start writing? Because if you ask me personally, sir, what you used to do? In GS1, I used to start my paper with question number 4. Because geography was my forte. Question number 4, 5, 6, पहला खत्म करता था. Then I used to go to 14, 15, 16, 17, these 4 questions. So when I finish this, immediately I will go to 18, 19, 20. Because that is society. Right? Having an optional of anthropology, I can definitely bring in those dimensions of society to a certain extent. Then again, I used to come back to 8, 9, 10, then finish here 11, 12, 13, 1, 2, 3. So in this context, what is happening is I know what is my area. In GS3 also, you will have a similar setup that I used to start my paper with 19, 20, 9, 10. That means what? Internal security. Because that is one area where I can't find many varieties of questions. If I read some limited syllabus, मेरे को मिल जाता है. I'll get those marks which is supposed to be given, right? And getting 35, 36 out of 50 in internal security is not very difficult. And if you generally are aware about how are the things going on with respect to GS3, scores are plateauing. मतलब बाकी GS में you can definitely score around 90 plus. That is a easy thing generally, right? GS1 में 100, GS2 में 110. But generally when you observe the scores of GS3, क्या चल रहा है? You see that they are somewhere ranging between 75 to 90. So in that context, understanding that arrangement of the question becomes very, very important for you to attempt the paper in a way you maximize, right? So coming back to our subject, generally these questions are there. That means in total, I see that 4 into 10 and 4 into 15. That means 40. And on an average, I see there are 100 marks in GS1. In fact, if you go back and refer to 2022 question paper, what you would see that in 2022 question paper from geography, we had 120 marks. That means half of the question paper of GS1 was from geography. So that is one direct weightage that we generally see with respect to geography. The second area where I would see with respect to the exam relevance of geography as a subject is, I would see it in GS3. And I know in GS3, I have a subject called as disaster management. I have a subject called as disaster management. And generally, I find 2 questions coming from disaster management. But this trend has been changing for past few years. For example, if you go back post 2020, 2020 ke after that, when you look at those 2020 things, they were seeing that they slowly started reducing the importance of disaster management, and they started talking about general aspects of disasters. For example, last year, if you look, 2023 May, I think, hope you keep seeing PYQs. Right? Generally, my nature of lecture would be that I would keep tracing things and concepts back to PYQs. Right? Because you have to understand that the ultimate master of this examination is previous year questions. And the beauty of previous year questions, trust me, my dear, after having such an experience with the exam, that the beauty of PYQs is, if this is my syllabus, I know syllabus is very wide, because what are we studying? Are we studying specific studies or general studies? हम पढ़ रहे हैं general studies. When it is general studies, anything under sky is general. Now, what is going to narrow down my preparation to a larger extent is I see PYQs drawing boundary to this preparation. Yes, definitely, because when I talk about geophysical phenomena in geography, anything and everything that is going on in nature is a geophysical phenomena. That is what is one line that we see in GS1 paper. How am I going to narrow down my preparation there? Generally, I see UPSC asking about earthquakes. Generally, I see UPSC asking about volcanoes. Generally, I see a UPSC asking about landslides. In तीनों के चक्कर में UPSC, it keeps asking, keeps going around. And in 2021, it didn't have any question. I think it asked earthquake-related disasters. That means what is happening? Although I see geophysical phenomena is a very, very broad dimension, everything is narrowed down by what? PYQs. So that is why I keep referring to PYQs, right? So as and when we progress across the lectures, I would suggest you also to refer to the PYQs with respect to the corresponding topic that we are doing, right? As and when we get time, I keep referring to that. We keep solving certain conceptual things which are existing, right? For example, if you go back and refer to 2022 question paper, you would see one beautiful question on clouds, right? If you'd solve that particular question on clouds in 2022, trust me, all the conceptual dimensions of clouds is clear, right? So that is why I keep telling that we'll keep referring to PYQs as and when it is required, such that we narrow down our scale of preparation, right? So I see that from disaster management, roughly on an average, I would get 25 marks, 110 marker, 115 marker. Generally, question number 7, question number 17, Generally, it is not very specific. I told you it has been changing to a larger extent. But in general pattern, question number 7 of GS3, question number 17 of GS3 is generally from disaster mein se. So in that, what do I see? In that, I see that 25 marks. And I know the cause is geography. Effect kya hai? What is the effect? Environment. Definitely. Manifestation of geography in different dimensions is environment. Wahi to. The context for environment is set by what? Geography. So environment, you anyway know, it ranges from 25 to 40 marks. ये तो variation है इसमें, right? There is some variation that is existing when it comes to the environment as a subject, right? So when I look at the total weightage of our learnings directly or explicitly and implicitly, we would somewhere boil down to 150 to 160 marks, right? And in case if you have some inclination towards forest service, right? Anybody is planning to give उसमें, in case पता नहीं, जब मैंने 2021 का फॉरेस्ट सर्विस का इंटरव्यू दे रहा था, in the middle M3, right? We know that forest service interview is a board of 4 members and civil services interview is a board of 5 members. One of those members was suddenly in middle asked me, give me the differences between weather and climate. And what do you think are the components of weather? And what do you think are the components of climate? And in that basic understanding, what do you think, or what are the parameters that are changing in the context of climate change? Out of blue, right? Definitely we're not attending a geography wala class or geography wala exam, but it was out of blue. In case if some things like that happen, and you definitely use the subject to a larger extent when you're having some inclinations towards forest service, right? It depends, right? So you see that this is what is the exam relevance when it comes to prelims. More of roughly 30 marks, 30 to 60 marks is explicit plus implicit, and mains examination roughly around 150 to 190 marks of weightage, right? Now, moving further, right? People are very tight, which relax, ho jao, right? Right? Relax, right? I know it is my first appearance and people are बहुत tight है यार, relax कर लो थोड़ा, right? We look into the class, right? हम क्या पढ़ रहे हैं? Geography. You'll realize that this is beautifully interesting because whatever is happening outside, we will be able to understand. And whenever we don't understand something, what do we say? We say, sir, climate change का impact है ये. अब अचानक से बाहर बारिश हो रहा है, मान लो बारिश हो रहा है और बच्चे पता नहीं क्या, सीधा they'll come into the class and, sir, you were teaching about precipitation. Tell me why there is rainfall. Is it convective? Is it orographic? Or is it frontal? जब when it is unseasonal rain, हमको कुछ पता नहीं है. And one simplest reason is what? Climate change बस. और climate change के हिसाब से चल रहे हैं, सर क्या करें? Right? तो थोड़ा relax हो जाओ. You will understand beautiful things in geography. And geography में भी बहुत बढ़िया philosophy है जिंदगी का. Why? Because the biggest beauty of earth that teaches you is nothing is perfect in life. And no creation is perfect. Some magnanimous and magnitudinal systems like earth by themselves are not perfect. आप कौन है यार? बहुत छोटा आदमी है. Don't you think so? Can we be perfect? नहीं यार, नहीं होगा. So we learn all of those systems, right? And I'll be able to only express those things if you people are little interactive, little free, relax kar. Right? I know. Right? I look like a person who will beat you up or something like that. I understand. पता है मेरे को, ठीक है. But let's learn more. Right? We are all here for what process? Learning. Let's learn more. ठीक है. हाँ. Now, coming to geography as a subject, what are we going to learn fundamentally? That means what kind of dimensions are we going to discuss? Now, when we look at geography as a subject, we would see that majorly we divide them into different branches depending upon the field of study, depending upon the context of study. Now, when I look at geography, I see एक तो physical geography. That means I study about the physical systems of Earth. मतलब what is going on with wind, atmosphere, rainfall queue, right, clouds, or why earthquakes, volcanoes, some basic physical systems that we will study with respect to the Earth. And once we study about physical geography, then we would see that we would contextualize all of this physical geography to India, and that is where we call it as Indian geography, right? Whatever is the climate that we study, whatever is the wind system that we study, and whatever are the types of wind systems, or it might be with respect to precipitation, different kinds of things. When we contextualize it to our region, because we are writing Indian civil services, यही तो है ना. हम अफ्रीका के बारे में तो नहीं लिख रहे, बट काफी बार यूपीएससी ने किया है कि इट मेड इट अपीयर एज इफ वी आर राइटिंग फॉर अफ्रीकन सिविल सर्विसेज. क्यों? Last year, if you look at 2023 वाला prelims question paper, there were more than 8 questions from African geography. पता है? इस साल भी कुछ ऐसे 3-4 questions तो पूछा था African region में. Yet, for the reason of what? That one of the economic surveys of 2018 categorically talks about a beautiful concept called as resource curse. And one classic testimonial for resource curse in the world is Africa. And one classic example for resource curse in India is regions of Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. This is what is the economic survey of 2018 states. As we progress and as we are studying economic geography, I would bring in these dimensions of resource curse, right? As it is a testimonial, that is why we see UPSC categorically emphasizing so much on Africa. Okay? So when we contextualize these things to India, we will study where we will talk about Indian climate, right? 3-4 दिन से बारिश हो रहा है, right? What is the phenomena? Arrival of, अरे climate change मत बताओ यार, वो तो हो गया. जब when it is unseasonal climate change है हमारे पास, definitely we will use this technique in writing answers also. हमको कुछ नहीं पता है, फूड सिक्योरिटी का प्रॉब्लम है, एक डेफिनेट रीजन होगा क्या? क्लाइमेट चेंज. याद रखना, राइट? वी विल सी दोस थिंग्स. तो ऑनसेट ऑफ मॉनसून, साउथ वेस्टर्न मॉनसून का सीजन चल रहा है, तो दैट मींस वी विल स्टडी अबाउट इंडियन क्लाइमेट एंड वी विल आल्सो सी, वी वुड स्टडी अबाउट इंडियन फिजियोग्राफी. आप लोग पिछले साल सुना होगा जोशीमठ का इंसिडेंस, लैंड सब्सिडेंस, दे से लैंड सिंकिंग. यू हैव हर्ड अबाउट दिस थिंग्स, जोशीमठ का इंसिडेंट. दैट मींस there should be some physiological feature or there should be some physiographic feature in the regions of Himachal Pradesh, in the regions of Uttarakhand, for this phenomenon of sinking of land happening there. Why is it not happening in Delhi? Why is it not happening somewhere in the southern regions? We see that we talk about something called as tectonic activity. So there we apply the concepts of tectonic activity, plate interactions, and all of those dimensions to Indian physiography. And one favorite area of UPSC definitely is Indian physiography. Definitely 10 marker ana is. Why? Because when you look at this, definitely one favorite area is Himalayas versus Western Ghats. Himalayas versus Western Ghats, that is evergreen question from UPSC. Why Himalayas versus Western Ghats? They say both are mountainous structures, but एक में landslide ज़्यादा होते हैं, एक में कम होते हैं. क्यों? What is our commonsensical understanding? Landslide जब ज़्यादा हो रहा है, इसका मतलब स्लोप ज़्यादा है, इसका मतलब sediments loose है. So please understand that we will see all of these dimensions when it comes to Indian physiography. Then we would also discuss about Indian drainage system, which is a very, very important hotspot when it comes to prelims examination. You will definitely have 2 marks coming from Indian drainage system. Q. For example, if you look at 2015, there was a question on Godavari river system. If you look at 2016, there was a question on Brahmaputra river system. In 2017, there was a question on Teesta river. In 2019, there was a question on Krishna and Godavari. In 2021, there was a question on east flowing rivers, Nagavalli and Vamshadhara rivers. Yes. And in 2022, we had a question on Grand Canyon of India, Penna river. Yes. In 2023, क्या था? अरे वो मैचिंग वाला था यार, एक रिवर्स एंड द प्रोजेक्ट्स, वो भी था. एंड 2024 में which question was asked from drainage system? Narmada, Amarkantak, waterfalls, दुआनदार waterfalls, एक मैचिंग 3 sections का मैचिंग आया था. So definitely one favorite area from prelims examination is Indian drainage. अरे गंगा tributaries, order of arrangement, Gomati, Gagra, order of arrangement, tributaries, favorite area of UPSC. I told you different rivers being asked in different exams. The fourth area that we would see is Indian vegetation. Again a hotspot when it comes to prelims examination. हमेशा 3 तरीका के क्लाइमेट्स होते हैं, हमेशा 3 तरीका की वेजिटेशन पूछते हैं यूपीएससी. डेफिनेटली एक तो एवरग्रीन फॉरेस्ट. कुछ क्वेश्चन पूछा है, उसमें कुछ आंसर नहीं बताया ना, सीधे एवरग्रीन मार के आ जाओ बाहर, बिकॉज दैट इज फेवरेट एरिया ऑफ यूपीएससी. एक तो एवरग्रीन फॉरेस्ट, दूसरा मेडिटेरेनियन क्लाइमेट. एंड वी नो दैट द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक फीचर ऑफ मेडिटेरेनियन क्लाइमेट क्या है? स्क्लेरोफिल्स. Sclerophils, and these are what? Vineyards of the world. And we would see Mediterranean climate is standing out of all other 13 other world climates. इसका मतलब generally we will see, you will understand on a later date, generally we will see that any climatic condition which is cold will be dry. हम moisturizer इसलिए use करते हैं. You use moisturizers during summer or winter? ज़्यादातर कब? I know you people use it every day, but mostly when? Mostly winters, मतलब dry. But in Mediterranean climate, we will see we will have wet winters and dry summers. And we would see one peculiar phenomena that is happening here, that is what is called a shifting of pressure belts. And iski wajah se we see that the Mediterranean climate is changing. And because of this change in the Mediterranean climate, we see the nature of the vegetation that is existing. And one more very, very favorite area of vegetation from the side of UPSC is savanna grasslands. राइट? इस साल आप लोग सुना होगा वर्ल्ड क्लाइमेट्स में there were 4 options which were given. Option D was what? Marine west continental climate. Marine west climate मतलब क्या था वो? Mediterranean climate. Favorite UPSC का favorite है वो. And when we look at one more, savanna grasslands. Savanna grasslands definite why it uses one peculiar thing called fire climax of savannas. 2014 में भी पूछा था, 2021 में भी पूछा था सवाना के बारे में. एंड चौथा फेवरेट एरिया है डेजर्ट वेजिटेशन. आप लोग सुना होगा simplest desert vegetation that you can happily recollect and remember is what? Aloe vera. Aloe vera सुना है आप लोग? देखा है? अप्लाई करते हैं ना पूरा, राइट? बोलते हैं सर पढ़ पढ़ के डार्क सर्कल्स हो रहे हैं हम पूरा, राइट? You would have seen that aloe vera is good for your dark circles. Tip, right? Tip there. ठीक है. हाँ. Now when you look at the nature of aloe vera, what is happening? It is thorny. I can't handle it as it is. It is thorny. And when I open up the leaf structure, I see a wax-like substance which I am applying it on my skin. Yes. And when you look at the nature of the roots of aloe vera, you know that aloe vera can also grow here, depending upon the moisture. And when you look at the nature of the roots, they are very, very long. So if I just remember aloe vera as a kind of vegetation, don't you think I will remember the characteristic features of desert vegetation? And you can go back and refer. There were 4 times where UPSC asked on desert vegetation alone. The latest was in 2021. Which of the following are the adaptation features of desert vegetation? Aloe vera, will it have some leaves? In case if it has also small leaves, waxy leaves, right? Long roots, thorny structure. बस हो गया. यही 4 ऑप्शन होते हैं. Are you understanding, right? So that is one favorite area that, and again we will see what is Indian vegetation, how is it varying, what is the distribution, and what are the characteristic features. We will see what is the forest divide line in India, and what is the 200 centimeters divide line that we will see with respect to this. Then from there, we would slowly get into the applicative part of geography, that is human geography, right? For example, this year you would have seen one particular question with respect to, although there is economic development, but there is no human development. You have seen that particular question. In 2023, we had that same question in GS1 as well as GS2. Now that means we will have to contextualize and we will have to bring in the applications of geography to what, my dear? To human habitation, right? And in this context, what do we study? We study about population, right? And we know that we are the leaders in this, right? Yes or no? What is our contribution? बाकी एरियाज में we contribute only 2%. Population में हम contribute कितना करते हैं? 20%. Are you understanding? Right? So we see we contribute roughly around 20% of the global population. And we are in a phase of a window of demographic dividend. The 2017 economic survey as well as 2021 economic survey gives a deadline with respect to this 2047. आप लोग सुना होगा विकसित भारत डॉक्यूमेंट 2047. Yes. हमें बताओ यार. I'll tell you all of those, right? So you would have seen that document, Viksit Bharat, right? Amrit Kal. सब सुना होगा. The fundamental basis for all of this is demographic dividend of India. And when I have to simply say what is demographic dividend of India, I can simply say, आप लोग, you people are young. Yes or no? You believe it or not? Any doubt in that? Please, right? Don't have any doubts in that, because this process demands energy. One long year you will have to sustain everything. अब इधर उधर थोड़ा कुछ इंटरव्यू में हुआ ना, फिर क्या करना पड़ेगा? फिर you will have to recoup your energy and give the next year prelims, right? So you need energy, please believe. The youthful population of this country is what is considered to be demographic dividend. What is this youthful population? What is the biggest advantage of youthful population? They can work. They can work. That means they are providing the labor force They are providing the economic potential and also becoming an instrument for what? Economic growth of the country. आप लोग सुना होगा Startup India. Now, if you observe this period from 2011 till 2047, especially till 2036, you would see that all of the governmental policies are centered around youth. Why? Because we wanted to reap the potential of the youthful population of this country. Because when you look at the general population distribution, we see that roughly around 63% of Indian population is working population. 63%. And India happens to be the youngest nation. How India happens to be the youngest nation? We see the median age of Indians is 29 years. This is a median age of India. And you see this year there was one question in 2024 that which of the following regions are known for aging population? Italy, South Korea, Japan. ये सब ऑप्शंस में था, 5 में से 3 करेक्ट था. Yes. Now what is that fundamental understanding there? The fundamental understanding there that you'll have to remember is what? That rest of the world is aging, but India is youthful, bubbling with energy. Don't you think that is a fundamental reason why most of the global events are happening in India? आप लोग कभी ध्यान दिया है क्या? That why at all from 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, why at all some of the most important global events are happening in India? G20 summit, World Cup, अरे T20 नहीं, 50-50 नॉर्मल वर्ल्ड कप. अब तो T20 कहीं बाहर चल रहा है. यस, व्हाट इज द स्टेटस? क्या चल रहा है यार वर्ल्ड कप में? आज सेमीफाइनल्स है, राइट? किस किस के बीच में? इंडिया वर्सेस इंग्लैंड. व्हाट इज द पिच रिपोर्ट सेइंग? वेदर फोरकास्ट पता है? वेदर में क्या क्या कंपोनेंट्स रहेगा? फिर जब ज्यादा ह्यूमिडिटी होगा बॉल स्विंग होगा कि नहीं होगा? पता नहीं सर. राइट, द ओनली थिंग दैट वी नो इज सपोर्ट इंडिया, बस. राइट, हाँ, ब्यूटीफुल. So what is the fundamental understanding? Most of the important events in the world are happening where? In India. Why? Youngest population, bubbling with energy. And when you want to reap, you would have heard about soft power करके कुछ सुना होगा. That any country will have 2-3 kinds of powers. एक तो hard power, मतलब military, arms, ammunition, defense, right? So the second one that any country is fundamentally using these days is something called a soft power. And what is the soft power? Pura culture ke upar. Now suddenly you see Egyptian president celebrating Diwali. Now you would have seen this melody wala issue chal raha hai. अब सुना होगा, न्यूज़ पे तो सुना होगा, देखा होगा. And what was the melody thing that was going on? The individual greeted Prime Minister Modi with Namaskar. That is our culture. Yoga, International Yoga Day. International Yoga Day. Recently, June 21st. Why, my dear? Any specific reason? Somebody's birthday on that day? We have a geographical reason there. June 21st happens to be the longest day. इस साल question भी पूछा था लोग. And there was a similar question in 2019 prelims also. There was a similar question in 2021 prelims also. That means what is our fundamental understanding here? That there was a geographical basis behind International Yoga Day on June 21st. And we see that June 21st, International Yoga Day, it is the culture of India, where I will be able to manage the opinion of the other country without using force. I don't need to force them. You would see that the global community, even in United Nations, people were doing yoga. Did India come and tell, please do yoga? No. That is the cultural power of India. And that dimension is what is called as soft power. The dimension is what is called as soft power. And India may, because of the youthful presence, you would have heard about diaspora. Diaspora is nothing but those people who stay in abroad, but they have certain linkages with Indian systems. And what are these people doing? These are bringing in a lot of cultural dimension. These are bringing in a lot of cultural dimension. So that is what is soft power. And that is what is the importance of demography, demographic composition, and demographic dividend. So all of those dimensions we will study. We will study some dimensions of care economy. We will study some dimensions of silver economy. Silver economy is something which is related to what? Aging population. Because you definitely know anybody who is young today will have to be old tomorrow. वो तो general principle है. Yes or no? We will also see the river growing old over a period of time. That you would have seen this rafting, Rishikesh, these particular regions rafting, that is the youthful phase. That suddenly when you look at the coastal region, you talk about your floodplains, beaches, that is the senile phase of the river. So in that context, what you have to categorically understand here, we see that any population which is young today will have to be old sometime. And for us, after 2036, we see most of our population slowly starts getting old. So in that context, what are we going to have? In that context, what are we going to see? We will have to discuss about how are we going to handle this aging population. That is where we talk about silver economy. Last year in GS3, there was one question. Question number 12 of GS3, what do you see? They asked, what do you understand by monetized economy and compare it with care economy? And how is care economy looking into the gender empowerment in India? That is what is the question framing of GS3. So in that context, you were supposed to understand what is care economy in the context of what? Demographics. Then one more very, very important dimension that we will study is the dynamic aspect of population. That is what, my dear? Migration. We see different patterns of migration. And I know that some regions are known to have large population, some regions are known to have less population. For example, is somebody staying in Thar Desert? Are we having more population in Thar Desert? Definitely not. But when we look at the Gangetic Belt, in that particular region, we find most of the population is being present there. And when we look at the population densities as per 2011 census, we would see that Bihar happens to be the region with the largest population density and Uttar Pradesh happens to be the region with the largest population. तो इसका मतलब कुछ geographical factor है इसमें to look into the population dimension. And we will definitely know that there is some balancing phenomena that is existing between these regions with less population and more population. And that balancing phenomena is migration. We would look at what is the analysis of migration, what are the pros of migration, what are the cons of migration, what are the factors of migration. We would divide the factors of migration into pull factors, push factors, those dimensions we would definitely look into migration. And one form of migration that we generally observe is urbanization. Because my simplest understanding of urbanization is what, my dear? My simplest understanding of urbanization is people moving from rural to urban centers. Yes, that is what is the simplest thing. And my general understanding of urban center is what, my dear? When I see the urban population increasing, when I see the urban area increasing, I call it as urbanization phenomenon. So depending upon the urban area, depending upon the urban population, I call it as urbanization. We will have to look at what are the factors of urbanization. Because it is anticipated that, according to UN Habitat report, that more than 50% of Indians are going to be in urban centers by 2040. You see that movement happening now itself, right? Yes or no? Definitely. And what is our current status according to 2011 census? We see around 31.14% of population is in urban centers. Baki 70%, 68% is in rural areas. But UN Habitat anticipates that by 2040, 50%, more than 50% is going to be in urban centers. Right? So in that context, urbanization becomes a very, very important phenomena. What are the issues of urban centers or urbanization? What are the challenges? What is the nature? Because when you observe the nature of urbanization in India, is it planned? Definitely not. Is it regular? No. Is it controlled? Is it structured? Is it administered? No. When I inherently look at the nature of urbanization in India is all of this, that it is irregular, it is uncontrolled, it is unadministered, it is ungoverned, and it is unstructured. I definitely know that I will have some issues which are existing with respect to such a nature of urbanization. So I will have to definitely look at the factors. I will have to definitely look at what are the impacts or challenges that are existing with respect to urbanization as a phenomenon. Then from there, we will slowly move into one more important dimension, that is economic geography. Economic geography, and we see a lot of convergence of economic geography existing with economy, right? Now, what is the difference between economy and economic geography? Let me clarify. The basis or the concept is with respect to geography, but the process and the outcome is with respect to economy. For example, in economic geography, I study about agriculture. Agriculture. But when it comes to studies of agriculture, very, very important area of UPSC prelims as well as mains. Because when you go back and refer to your PYQs, agriculture say definitely 30 marks are there in your mains examination. And in case if you're lucky enough, you would definitely have one essay coming on agriculture, kuch. You'll have to see. It depends. But definitely I will have some question which is of worth 30 marks from agriculture, because food security is also from agriculture. Cropping pattern is also from agriculture. And definitely I will see questions from agriculture coming in prelims. Especially from which area? We will discuss about something called as agricultural operations. Iska matlab, what is ploughing? What is mulching? What is the process of harvesting? What is the process of different types of cropping systems? Right? Monoculture, mixed cropping, mixed farming, ZBNF. You have heard about these systems? Organic farming. Aajkal sab organic products chal rahe. Yes or no? Even FSSI had come out with a guideline saying that if it is organically produced, please put a representation that it is organically produced. Pata hai na, FSSI, it is what? It is an organization which looks into the food safety. Food safety. वो जो मैगी वाला issue, Nestle वाला issue, आप लोग recently that food color वाला issue, right? That cotton candy, one of our favorites. Taken, no? Yes, no. You people don't eat cotton candy? अब तो नहीं मिलेगा यार, बैंड है वो, right? Because उसमें ज़्यादा color डाल रहा था. There was a lot of color which was being added. So those who are looking into this food safety wala, that dimension, it said that please give a separate guideline or please put a separate representation that if the product is organically produced. So we will discuss about organic farming. We will discuss about climate smart agriculture. We will discuss about precision farming. We will discuss about permaculture, 2021 wala prelims question, permaculture. We would discuss about biodynamic farming. We would discuss about Vedic farming. We would discuss about vertical farming. We would discuss about hydroponics, aquaponics. Hydroponics, aquaponics. सुना होगा आप लोग. That in hydroponics and aquaponics, what is happening? It is not regular agriculture. It is alternative farming system. उसमें alternative farming system क्या चल रहा है? That we don't have soil, but the medium is water. Hydro, aqua. And we will also study one more beautiful mechanism called as aeroponics. We would see what is tillage, zero tillage, contour ploughing, terrace cultivation. This section will be beautifully interesting. ये थोड़ा हमारा प्लान बी भी बन जाएगा. कुछ इधर उधर हुआ है ना यूपीएससी, तो प्लान बी भी बन सकते हैं, राइट? मजाक कर रहे हैं, डोंट टेक इट सीरियस, डोंट बी टू सीरियस, रिलैक्स, राइट? Because we are understanding about a beautiful thing which is not so perfect is nature, right? So we will discuss about those fundamental dimensions of agriculture there. And from there, we will slowly start looking at, now whatever is the input part, we majorly look in geography. The output and outcome is seen where? In economy. You look into productivity, you look into policy making, you look into farmers, you look into doubling of farmers' income, Ashok Dalwai Committee 2018. Where do you see? In the output side, right? That is what you study in economy. Now, the second dimension that we study in economic geography is we will study about industries. But when we look at industries to a larger extent, we don't look into industries as it is or from the economic perspective, but we look at industries with respect to factors of location. That means I know that if I have to set up an industry, there is some set of principles which are to be maintained. I cannot randomly come and build a nuclear plant here. Can I? I can't. Will somebody allow me to do that? No. Why? Because for every set of industry, there are some set of parameters. Now, for example, if I want to build a pharmaceutical company, can I build it here? Definitely not, because I need some factors to be present for a particular industry to be established. And my biggest factor in pharma is what, my dear? Natural gas. And we have something called as APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients. And we see 70% of that is being imported from China. And when we look at the pharmaceutical sector in the context of India, we see we are the 14th largest in the context of value, 9th largest in the context of volume, and we are the leading producers of generic medicine. Look, and USA is very, very troubled with India being one of the leading producers of generic medicine. You will see those issues in the context of IPR regime in WTO, TRIPS plus agreements. All of those things are discussed there. Why? India is the leading one with respect to generic medicine in pharma. So for setting up different industries, I need some factors. So we would discuss roughly around 10 to 12 industries. We would look at automobile industry, which is coming up. Suddenly, if UPSC wants to go for a dynamic but conventional question, it can talk about what are the factors of location for electric vehicles and what are the existing challenges in India with respect to electric vehicles and suggest necessary measures. Probable, ho sakta hai. Because automobile industry is such that it is not an independent industry. Because automobile industry will depend on number of ancillary industries. Now I know that for a car, what all will be there? Tires will be there, which demand rubber industry. Inside the smart systems will be there, which demands electronics industry. The seating system, which will demand polymeric industry, the foam industry. इसका मतलब क्या है? Automobile is not a independent industry. So we will look at those dimensions as well. We will look at what is sunrise industry, what is footloose industry. Suddenly you would have heard about the news that in Noida we have Samsung plant set up. Yes. Suddenly from nowhere, you suddenly see the South Korean people coming and setting up something related to Samsung in Noida. Now, one fundamental question comes up, sir, what are those factors which are favorable there? Any industry which is set up without considering any factors is what is called as footloose industry. Footloose industry, right? आप लोग सुना होगा footloose competitions. Yes, in footloose competitions, do you have organized steps? Or randomly, whenever they say they play some music, you do. To be very precise, you are DJs and all. In DJs and all, what happened? Will you plan some steps and go? It's a different issue. There will be one common step. This. उसके अलावा कुछ लोग होते हैं कि randomly they dance. And whenever I have some random factors existing there, and when I set up an industry, it becomes footloose industry. And somewhere we slowly started seeing that electronics industry started turning into a footloose industry. Footloose industry. So we will have to discuss about all of those dimensions with respect to this. And the second part of industry, that is what is the growth of industry? What is the challenges with respect to industrial sector? What are the existing challenges with respect to manufacturing sector? All those you will study as part of economy. Because you would have seen that India has a very, very poor manufacturing sector. Yes, hope you understand that. Because how can you say that, sir? From 1991 onwards till date, we see that the manufacturing proportion as part of GDP is hardly 16%. And in National Manufacturing Policy 2011, the government said that we will take this manufacturing sector from 16% to 25% by 2020. We are in which year now? 2024. We are in 2024, but they had aimed at 2020 to take it to 25%. हुआ है क्या? नहीं हुआ. What is our present percent? 14 to 15%. That means we will understand the input part, but the outcome and the output part is seen in economy. Then one more very, very important thing that we would see as part of economic aspects is mineral resources. Because the resource base by itself is a very, very important dimension in geography. Mineral resources. Now here we see, you would have heard about rare earth metals. Recently, there is a whole lot of discussion that is going on, RER, REMs. And recently the ministry had come out of giving a list on critical minerals. You'd have heard about all of this. Yes. So we will look at these different mineral dimensions that are existing. Right? What are the different dimensions with respect to minerals? And there we will look at what is the geographical location. Geographical location with respect to world, geographical location with respect to India. That we will have to look at those fundamental dimensions in mineral resources. Then we will also have to look at certain dynamic dimensions. Is one emerging area that we generally see in minerals is PMNs. What are these PMNs? Is polymetallic nodules. Polymetallic nodules. These are generally found on the seabeds. Oceanic floor होते हैं ना, right? Just like our normal floor, ocean के लिए भी एक floor होगा. That is oceanic floor. And we call them technically as abyssal plains. Right? On a later date, when I'm teaching you the major and minor reliefs of oceans, there we will see something called as abyssal plains. And in that context, what do you understand with respect to that? That is a hotspot for polymetallic nodules. And when you look at what is the composition of polymetallic nodules, we will see that we have iron, we have manganese, Mn, right? We have cobalt. All of those which are related to iron industry are coming as a combo pack for us in the form of what? Polymetallic nodules, PMNs. So we will have to discuss about those dimensions with respect to mineral resources. And one extended discussion that we will have in the context of resources. What extended discussion will we have in the context of resources? We would see forest as a resource. Yes, don't you think so? You'd have heard about something called as minor forest produce, major forest produce, right? What is a major forest produce generally that you see? In general. Hey, Pushpa. What was Pushpa fighting for? Red Sanders. What was a timber? Timber becomes the major produce of a forest. Minor produce of a forest क्या होगा? Leaves, gum, resin, tamarind. Yes, all of this. Yes or no? Tendu leaves, the leaf in which you will roll your cigars. All of these are what? These are fundamentally minor forest produce. And we will see that forest is a resource by itself. It has natural significance. It has economic significance. And more than anything, when we look at the tribal cultures, it has cultural significance which is existing. Where we see the concept of sacred groves. Where we see the concept of sacred groves. Right? So that is one dimension. That is where we will discuss about ISFR, Indian State of Forest Report 2021. Right? Abhi tak update nahi aaya. Forest report actually this year it is supposed to release. By the time when we are reaching this forest resources as a subject, in case if ISFR 2023 comes up, we will have the updated data. Otherwise, we will have to stick to ISFR 2021, then you will have to update on your own. Otherwise, if there is some provision of giving an updated data version in the form of an handout or a printout, I would provide that. Just one page data, because although it is a report of 100, 200 pages, all that we will have to know is one page information for examination. उसमें क्या क्या पता होना चाहिए आपको? That when you look at Indian State of Forest Report, it is a biennial report. That means it is given once in 2 years. It is given once in 2 years. It is given by whom? Forest Survey of India, FSI. And where is the headquarters of Forest Survey of India? Uttarakhand. Right? Uttarakhand, FSI. And it talks about something called as forest cover, tree cover, forest area, mangrove area, right? Which states are having large forest areas? Which states are having large percentage of forest? Which states are having large mangrove areas, right? And it also states about what are the reasons for forest fires in India. Should I tell you some fun facts, right? One major reason that I find because for the reason of forest fires is the timber syndicates and the aspects of shifting cultivation. अब लोग slash and burn सुना होगा, shifting cultivation. In Northeast, we call it as Jum cultivation. In certain parts of southern regions, we call it as Podu cultivation. Right? That is slash and burn or shifting cultivation. Now, the second most reason for forest fires, this is stated by Indian State of Forest Report, is the BD buds. People carelessly smoke, and they're in some hurry, throw, and finally, what is it turning into? Forest fire. Have you ever seen pine forest? Pine forest, right? Is it easy to walk on pine forest? अरे pine forest होते हैं वो needle like structures, right? जैसे Christmas tree का leaves है ना, उसी तरह we will also have this pine forest pine leaves which are resinous in nature, which are thin, right? Have you seen that? Is it easy to walk on the pine forest? No. Why? When you look at the pine forest litter, whatever is the leaf litter, whatever is the leaf shedding that has happened, you see that the leaf litter will come up to your knee size, up to your knee level. That means when I put in a step, I will have to put it up to my knee, then I will have to take out and put one more step. Why is this happening? Because these are not degradable so fast. Because these have some resin content which is present, which is not favorable for degradation. When it is not favorable for degradation, what is happening? Automatically, it is what material? It is accumulated. And by mistake, if some casual activity like this happens, it gets on fire, right? So we will look at the reference with respect to forest fires. We would look at what are the anthropogenic causes, what are the natural causes of forest fire. If you look at ISFR 2021, it says 35.6% of Indian forests are vulnerable for forest fires. That is what we will discuss. And one extended conversation of forest that we will definitely see is mangroves. Favorite area again. Mains May 2019 we had one question on mangroves. 2021 we had one question on mangroves. Either you can get this question in GS1 or GS3. Kahi pe bhi. Right? Kahi pe bhi you can have this question. So you will refer to mangroves. We will discuss about mangroves. When you look at the status of mangroves in the context of India as per ISFR 2021, 0.15% of geographical area is covered by mangroves. 4992 4,992 square kilometers of area is by mangroves. And the largest area that I see in the context of mangroves is what? With respect to West Bengal, Sundarban, suna hoga aap log. Yes? Yes or no? And we also see one more data that we will see. Look at the status. More than 30% of the mangroves are degraded from last 3 decades. So we will discuss all of these dimensions when we are looking at mangroves forest as a resource. One more very, very important area where we will have to look at resources is water as a resource. આજકાલ you would have been seeing about something called as water scarcity. Now people are talking about if there has to be a third world war, water will be the cause. सुन रहा होगा, right? Delhi, classic example, right? Shimla, yes or no? People are talking about something called as 0 day. सुना है concept? 0 day. What is that 0 day? It is such a day where I don't have any water which is available to meet my domestic needs. And we see South Africa in African continent is reaching 0 days. Shimla is reaching 0 days. In the southern part, Bengaluru is reaching 0 days. So we will have to look at what is the difference between water shortage, water scarcity, water stress. You know, we think all three are same, but all three are not same. Water shortage is different. Water scarcity is different. Water stress is different. We will see a particular criteria which is given with respect to this in the global communities, that what is differentiating this. And we will look at what are the reasons for all of this. What are the supply side reasons? What are the demand side reasons when you talk about water stress, water scarcity, water shortage? Because water is a definite area again. You will have to see. Water is a definite area, be it in context of GS3 or be it in the context of GS1. Any of these areas, water is different, right? So water as a resource we will look at. Then apart from that, we will also specifically look at marine resources. Marine resources can be with respect to fisheries. Yes, it can be with respect to fisheries. Or marine resources can be with respect to the mineral resources. और आजकल काफी products आ रहे हैं. You would have heard about the seaweed products. The काफी cosmetics में आ रहे हैं यार ये सब, right? Seaweed products, right? Sea grass. And you see that there is large iodine composition which is existing here. So in that context, what you have to fundamentally understand, we see all of these are going to be a resource. If you go back and refer to 2023 question paper GS1, they were asking about what is the resource base with respect to coastal regions. इसका मतलब what are they asking? Marine resources. Marine resources. So we will look at what is the expanse and what is the horizon of understanding with respect to marine resources with respect to resource as a topic, right? So that is majorly that we will see in the context of minerals. एक छोटा सा extension होगा economic geography का कि when we will talk about transport sector. आजकल we see that aeroplanes have become like share autos. जैसे EVs है ना, you should see this travel that generally happens from morning 5 to 7 in the airports. It's very, very busy and it appears as if like a public transport system. That means, and we observe that India has turned out to be the third largest aviation market in the world. And we will have to look at what are the parameters which are enabling India to be the third largest aviation market. We would look at what is the composition of road, what is the composition of railways, what is the composition with respect to the aeroplanes. And you would have heard about something called as inland transport. Just like how we have national highways, right? NH1, NH2, we also have national waterways like NW1, NW2, NW3. Like that, we have 111 national waterways. अब उसमें से we'll only have to remember just first 6. उससे ज़्यादा नहीं याद करना चाहिए हमको, because we will only have to remember the first 6 national waterway 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because before 2016, prior to 2016, from 1986, we only had these 6. After 2016, with an amendment, with a change in the legislation, they brought in these 111 national waterways. So we will look at what are the challenges that are existing with respect to inland waterways. What is the significance with respect to inland waterways? Because Niti Aayog gives a strategic document on transport sector in India. And it gives a beautiful comparison that I know that there are roadways, I know that there are railways, I know that there are waterways. If I want to compare the significance of waterways vis-a-vis other transports, they say, for suppose if I'm traveling for 1 kilometer, and hypothetically if it is costing 1 rupee through road, that means if I'm traveling 1 kilometer through road, it is costing 1 rupee hypothetically. It says that it would cost 0.5 rupees through railways and it would cost 0.3 rupees through waterways. That means what is it categorically showing? It is categorically showing that it is a cheaper form of transport. It is an efficient form of transport. It is a cheaper form of transport. What is observed in this context? Are you understanding this? That don't you think when I write such tabular representations in the exam, the examiner will be able to get a broader perspective in this context of what, my dear? That you don't need to sit and explain everything here. That it is a cheaper source of, or it is a cheaper way of transport. Bas, table likh lo. Are you understanding this? We will see different forms of representation, right? Maybe tomorrow's session we will have initial half an hour on what are the components of answer writing in geography. क्योंकि geography में एक problem आएगा when you are going to write an answer is you don't know what to write. Now when I ask you what are the reasons or what is the relation between food security and climate change, you don't need to study geography to write that answer, if I'm not wrong. Yes? क्योंकि climate change से क्या होगा यार? Climate change से temperature बढ़ेगा. When temperature is increasing, agriculture productivity reduces. When agriculture productivity reduces, food security reduces. यही तो है पूरा supply chain. But how will I write it for 10 marks? बहुत बड़ा challenge है. How will I write it for 10 marks? Big challenge. Now, what component should I bring in with respect to geography answer writing such that I get over this issue of volume in the content? Because geography is a conceptual subject, right? जैसे आप लोग engineering, काफी engineers होगा ना क्लास में? कितने लोग यार engineers? Proud Indian engineers, beautiful, right? दिखते हैं यार. मैं भी एक engineer हूँ, क्या कर रहे? Right? हाँ. तो सर ये सिलेबस 1 साल में हो जाएगा, ऐसे लगेगा, right? The reason why I'm elaborating on all of this is you will have to observe that every part is part of your exam. And there was no section where I did not give you PYQs in this particular thing that I was expanding about. हो जाएगा यार. To be very precise, I will tell you, right? Maximum 100 hours. Because we are not here to do research. हमको geographist थोड़ी बनना है. What we need, 100, 120 marks, which is part of GS1, and 30, 50 marks, which is part of GS3, I should be able to write. That's it. And those 15, 16 questions of prelims, I should be able to solve. That's it. Slowly, we are going to get into generalizations. Don't worry, right? First 1 hour, I'll finish this. Then we are going to get into generalization. Ho gaya is. So that dimension probably will deal it tomorrow or day after. Any of these days, we will deal what are the components of answer writing in geography. Okay. So one dimension that we will discuss is transport. उसके अलावा कुछ settlements के बारे में discuss कर लेंगे. And thoda human development. Right? Thoda human development, because whatever I read till now, if I combine everything, what is going to happen? Human development. And we will see that economic development need not be in sync with human development. Economic development need not be in sync with human development. Because what is happening, you see, for suppose that some regions like India, we say that our per capita is very high. Our per capita has increased many-fold from 1991 onwards, that is post LPG reforms. But what is our human development rank, HDI index? 132. What is our gender gap index? 129. What is our global hunger index? 117. इसका मतलब, does economics mean everything to human development, or is there some other dimension of human development which has to be considered in this context? Are you getting this perspective? Right? That was the question that was asked in GS1 last year and GS2. Same question, similar question. Right? So with this, we will finish geography. Okay. It is the easiest subject. Trust me. I'll tell you logics. इसमें क्या logic है? एक logic है कि I don't need to remember much. I know the concept. I know the effect. Now, if I ask you wind system, what do you need to know? You need to know what is the concept of wind system. बस उसे क्या याद करना है? Right? What will you remember about a thing which you can't see? Logical. I just need to know what is the basis behind its genesis. We'll see that it will be divided into 3 different forces. Bas. So please understand that it is easy in the context. If you understand concept, you can happily extrapolate the understandings of this concept to other areas. But if some fundamental issues go on with respect to understanding, then it's a problem. Right? So 2-3 instructions when it comes to my sessions as such, that as we progress across the subject, I would definitely request you to keep writing running notes. Right? I would give you dictations, but my dictations would generally be very limited in the context of exam. But I would definitely want you to keep on writing the running notes, right? As and when it is discussed, as and when the concept is explained, please keep writing running notes. One. The second thing is, in case if you don't understand anything in middle, right, you have all the liberty to raise your hand. You have all the liberty to stop me, because when we get into the subject, probably in the third 1 hour of today, you would see that from the time that we start the subject of geography till we end the subject of geography, every class is linked. Every class is linked. And in case if you don't understand something in the middle, you have all the liberty to ask. I have all the responsibility to repeat. And don't worry, I have all the patience. Right? I don't need to talk about my patience. So now, right? You would have, by now you would have anticipated things, right? जब एक आदमी 6 अटेम्प्ट देते हैं, that itself is a thing to be considered for giving him Nobel Peace Prize. देना चाहिए. Just jokes apart. But तो I have all the patience to repeat, because कुछ concepts होते हैं बीच में थोड़ा मुश्किल होगा. But we will try to simplify as much as possible. The reason for next 1 hour I'm not entering into the subject but keeping on generalizations is the rest of geography that we're going to study is going to be extremely easy if you make a perspective of these generalizations that I'm going to talk about, right? We will have roughly around 10 generalizations. We would probably get into the subject in the third 1 hour of today's lecture. Okay. Is this clear? Are you enjoying? अच्छा है ना? नहीं है? Not enjoying? Forget about me. Lecture. Are you enjoying? Beautiful. Yes or no? Please, you can interact, right? I will not say, bacho, please sit straight. Right? Keep your fingers like this. Come on, my dear. Right? We are all what? We are all learning. I'm learning with you. You're learning with me. Antena? Yes? Yes or no? That is what we are fundamentally doing. We are having this exchange of knowledge. And it is more effective when you squeeze more knowledge from me. Yes or no? How will you squeeze? It doesn't mean that you come and ask me a question of economy and ask me to explain in geography. No. Geography ke related concepts पूछ लेना. And as soon as the class gets over, I would definitely recommend you to please keep seeing PYQs. I told you the importance of PYQs today. Across the lectures, you see they are repeated. And geography is such a subject for this year's prelims examination at least. Geography was the determining factor. जिसका geography अच्छा था, जिसका polity clear था, जिसका current affairs थोड़ा basic revised था, are good to go to clear this year's prelims. Because what was the composition, my dear? 19 questions from polity, 17, 18 questions from geography, roughly 11 to 12 questions from current affairs. कितना था यार? 37, 50 questions almost. If I would have just cherry picked my questions with respect to this and would have answered, this was a determining factor. Because environment, any given day, will have a major chunk in the exam. I told you the logic is for a service examination. Right? So, please enjoy the lecture. Please, we'll keep learning more. Right? We'll definitely learn more in this context. Okay? And definitely, as a, it'll be finished in 100 hours. I don't think that, sir, you told so much that, pata nahi, will it be completed in 1 year? Will you be taking long-term batch also for this? No. Right? We'll finish it in 100 hours to a larger extent. Okay? Now, coming to the generalizations for geography. Right? Now, when we look at these generalizations for geography, when I look at the generalizations for geography, write once, then I'll explain each. Liklo, right. First one. First generalization. Any concept in geography is an average concept, which means it can have exceptions. Second generalization. As any concept in geography can have exceptions. As any concept in geography can have exceptions. Comma. So, most of the concepts in geography are not regular, steady, uniform. They are not regular, they are not steady, they are not uniform. Right? Next, third. The whole principle of geography is balancing the imbalance condition. The whole principle of geography is balancing the imbalance condition. Next, fourth. Any concept in geography. I'll explain all of this, right? Right? These might appear very funny sometimes. Okay. But these are very, very profound principles. That आप लोग जब apply करोगे ना, when you see them being applied to questions, everything works out. Right? We'll write. What was fourth? What did I say? Any concept in geography can be learnt. Any concept in geography can be learnt just by understanding the name of the concept. Just by understanding the name of the concept. Next. Any variation in the phenomena. Any variation in the phenomena between northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. Between northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere is due to difference in composition of land and water. Is due to difference in composition of land and water. Next. Anywhere on the earth, east of sea, anywhere on the earth, east of sea is west of land. East of sea is west of land, and west of sea is east of land. Right? It's like some rap, no? Maybe you can try out, right? With some BGM and all, maybe, yeah. Right? West of sea is east of land, and east of sea is west of land. Right? Next. Did I give the concept of name, understanding the name of it? मैंने बताया कुछ, right? One more generalization. Any variation in geography, will have the variation in its physical concepts. Will have the variation in its physical concepts. Is this clear? Right? For now, let's have these generalizations. Then as we progress across the lecture, please leave some space. Right? Don't try to save trees by saving the page. Right? So I understand. Leave some place here. Don't write anything, so that as and when we keep moving across the lecture, we would add some more generalizations. We are yet to add 3 to 4 more generalizations to this section. Right? Keep that open. Now let's see what things will happen here. Now, when I look at the first generalization I was talking about, it's a average subject. What do you mean by average subject? Now just imagine, if I want to say geography about this particular place, and if I want to say about some phenomena in this place, in geography it is such that I cannot conclude upon my observations with respect to this place. I need 10 such places to say that there is some phenomena which is happening in this particular region. For example, if you look at wind system, I cannot say wind system of a particular region or a particular place. I will have to observe 10 such places where a similar wind concept is emerging then I will make it as a concept of geography. इसको remember कर लेना, right? If I talk about temperature, if I talk about pressure, if I talk about humidity, if I talk about precipitation, if I talk about clouds, I cannot include these concepts in geography unless and until I find this in multiple places. And average of all of these observations that you make is what is the composition of geography, 1. And as I know that anything which is an average of something will definitely have what method? Will definitely have the exceptions. Will definitely have exception. One beautiful exception that we will introduce over a period of time, probably when we are doing our ocean currents, when we are doing our oceanography, we would introduce a beautiful exception called as El Nino. Suna hai? Right? Just like climate change. If somebody asks you why climate change, simply बोल दो El Nino. अरे कल ही तो आया El Nino. सुना नहीं? बोल दो. Why? Because आजकल frequency of El Nino is increasing. Once upon a time, maybe we used to see El Nino impacts of after 11 years or 12 years. That frequency reduced to 8 years. That frequency reduced to 3 years. अब क्या चल रहा है? 3 साल 2 साल में El Nino का effect repeat हो रहा है. We are seeing a recurring effect of El Nino. So that means what is happening, and when I'm going to define and when I'm going to tell El Nino, I will say El Nino as it is some atmospheric disturbance. I will not specify. Why will I not specify? Because I don't know. Why is that I don't know? Because nobody knows. Please understand this. इसलिए हम बोलते हैं generalization. Is El Nino caused by climate change? I don't know. Is El Nino caused by greenhouse gas effect? I don't know. Is El Nino caused by Gautam sir? I don't know. Definitely not. पता नहीं मेरे को. Is El Nino caused by you? No. El Nino caused by somebody else? No. Because whenever I'm defining El Nino, it is an exception. I will say it is some atmospheric disturbance. It is emerging for some reason. It is having some impact. Exception. Exception. Please understand. So geography में काफी सारा exceptions होगा. One more place when I'm teaching Indian monsoon, right? पता है ना? Indian monsoon. Such a beautiful season, right? And when you look at Indian monsoon, क्या चल रहा होगा? You would have seen that when I observe Indian monsoon, there are a number of factors which are causing Indian monsoon. And there are a number of factors which are modifying Indian monsoon. हम discuss कर लेते हैं कि causative factors and modifying factors of Indian monsoon. But when we look at causative factors of Indian monsoon, in that we will see one particular phenomena called as jet streams. And in that jet stream, we will see there are two kinds of jet streams: tropical easterly jet stream and subtropical westerly jet stream. Look at the beauty of nature. Nature is the biggest engineer. We'll see that. Now, when I look at the Indian region, I'll see that subtropical westerly jet stream keeps coming here. And because of Himalayan structures here, it divides into two branches, right? That is normal. Why? Because if something is coming and hitting here, I know it divides into two branches. Very basic. But for Indian monsoon to occur, do you know that this southern branch, for some reason, for some impact, it recedes and joins back with northern branch? Is some traffic police telling it? Arey Babu, please go and join with that. Or is some master telling it? Nobody. It is an exception. Why? Because it is a phenomenon of averages. And why am I telling you this? It's an exception because 90% of the aspirants break your heads on these exceptions. You'll say, sir, you're telling El Nino, beautiful. But why El Nino, sir? I don't know, sir. You ask me, you interrogate me, you give me third degree and ask, sir, what is El Nino? I will tell you. I don't know, sir. I will tell you. वही तो मैं बोलूंगा यार, मेरे को पता नहीं है. क्यों मेरे को पता नहीं? Nobody knows. If you ask me, sir, put at gunpoint and say, hey, tell me what is happening. बताओ मेरे को. I'll tell, I don't know, sir. What will happen? Exceptions. Exceptions. Right? And whenever I see these exceptions existing, what is my simplest thing that I can see? None of the phenomena is uniform. Yes. Sir, where can I use this uniform wala principle? Now, when you go back and refer to 2020 question paper, prelims का, उसमें एक question दिया होगा कि they will tell the uniform of the or the temperature of the oceans is uniform across the layers. हो सकता है क्या? Why? Because it is a subject of averages. That means if I have to tell the temperature of the ocean to be uniform, I will have to say temperature here, temperature here, temperature here, temperature here. They have to be uniform. But don't you think that temperature here will be determined by the nature of insolation? The insolation here need not be same as here. The insolation here need not be same as here. The insolation need not be here same as here. When it is not same, can I call it uniform? No. Why? Because it is a system of averages. Samudra, are you understanding? This is where we will apply this exception. This is where we will apply this generalization. Now, suddenly, the second statement of that question says that at 126 meters, the temperature changes. किसको पता है? Who knows? Did you jump up to 126 meters and put thermometer there and verify? No. And don't you think if I have to put a counter narrative here, what is 126 meters today need not be 126 meters tomorrow? Because that is water. Yes. If sea level raises, will the 126 meters point remain same? No. Because what is my understanding? If this is the sea level, 126 might be here. If this is the sea level, 126 might be here. Exception. It is not uniform. Why? Because all of these are systems of averages. Automatically, when I understand this funda, I will eliminate that statement saying, Babu, it can't be very specific. And remember, one generalization that we will see in prelims examination is nothing in the statement can be specific. Why? What is the name of our paper? General Studies. Can something be specific in general studies? No. That is why in one of the elimination techniques in prelims examination, they will say, whenever you see number, eliminate. Who told you? Who told you? Kaun bataya tumko? What is the logic behind that? I am studying general studies. Anything which is general studies will have to be general. Can something be specific in general? No. Logic. Logic. Are you understanding generalizations? Generalizations, right? So that is what is one thing that you will have to understand to a larger extent, right? One more. One more exception क्या था यार? इसमें तो 3 cover हो गया. Second or third कुछ बताओ. Fourth. Name. Can be understood on the basis of name, is that? Yes? Balancing the imbalance. Beautiful. The generalization is balancing the imbalance. अरे ये नेचर का ही नहीं है यार, जिंदगी में भी वही है पुण्य पाप. Balancing the imbalance. Pleasure, pain. Balancing the imbalance. Happiness and sorrow. Balancing the imbalance. जैसे no, pleasure is an interval between two pains. Imbalance क्या है? Pain. Balance क्या है? Pleasure. फिर imbalance. फिर balance. Are you understanding? Now, when I see this funda in geography, where am I going to apply this funda? I apply this funda whole to all of the systems in nature. Now, first suppose, when I say wind, do you know how do I define wind system? I will say wind is a balancing circulation. इसका मतलब क्या है? That there is some difference which is existing between two regions. And when I see that there is some difference that is existing between two regions, something has to be balancing this difference. Yes or no? Don't you think if imbalance is existing in the system, it will be unstable? but your nature is so stable. When your nature is so stable, that means something is balancing the imbalance. That is wind. What is the imbalance? High pressure, low pressure. High pressure, low pressure. That is the imbalance. Now, sir, tell me one more example for this, sir. Ocean currents. On a later date, you will see that ocean currents will be what is the one which is taking some water from the equator towards the poles and poles towards the equator. We see it like a conveyor belt. You would have seen this conveyor belt, these luggage belts in airport. It keeps roaming. We see the similar kind of oceanic currents also keep roaming. Now, in this context, if you observe, when I define ocean currents also, I will say it is balancing circulation. What is it balancing? It is balancing the difference in salinity. It is balancing the difference in temperature. It is balancing the difference in density. It is balancing the difference in density. It is balancing the difference in temperature. It is balancing the difference in salinity condition. Because I see salinity here need not be same as salinity there. I can have here high temperature, so more saline. There low temperature, so less saline. There might be a glacial melting which is happening, which is resulting in lesser salinity. Imbalance condition. When there is an imbalance condition, can nature accept imbalance? No. Nature has an automatic system of balancing in the form of what? Oceanic circulations. Whole of your geography will be dependent upon this principle of balancing the imbalance condition. Right? Add one more generalization. Eighth generalization. Eighth. Please add. I hope you're understanding. Are you understanding? Is it making sense? Remember these fundas. Yes, geography will become easy. Right? That is the reason why I wanted to spend 1 hour on this. That when I spend 1 hour on this, trust me, other concepts, when I'm teaching you wind system, you're like, sir, hawa mein chal rahe sab. Right? Wind, why? Balancing the imbalance. Right? Likh lo. Any phenomena in geography is a relative concept. Is a relative concept. Right? Sir, how? What do you mean by relative concept is? Let me take this example itself. I'm telling, sir, this is high pressure. Sir, this is low pressure. Now, don't you think high pressure and low pressure are not absolute? This is low pressure compared to this. This is high pressure compared to this. That means I can definitely say that one region will have high temperature, one region will have low temperature. This is high compared to this. This is low compared to this. One region will have high salinity, one region will have low salinity. This is low compared to this. This is high compared to this. It is a relative concept. And I definitely know without any doubt that for every high pressure condition, there is a corresponding low pressure condition somewhere else. Because I don't have boundary to my earth. Hai kya kuch? I can't draw boundaries there. Can I say only in this column I'm having wind system? No, I don't know. Some high pressure here will definitely imply some low pressure somewhere else. For every Laila, there is Majnun. For every Romeo, there is Juliet. For every high pressure, there is corresponding low pressure. It's a relative concept. It's a relative concept. That for every high temperature, I will have low temperature kahi pe bhi. This is high because of that low, and that is low because of this high. Please understand this. Right? I'm telling this is dark and that is bright. How can I say that? This is comparatively darker to that region. That is comparatively brighter to this region. Right? You say this guy is beautiful, this guy is not so beautiful. How? This guy is beautiful compared to this fellow. Do you have some metrics which you measure the beauty? The same thing you can't do in the principles of nature. So every system क्या है? Relative है इसमें. Relative, right? right? Your answer is better than others. How? Relative. Either you should have written something better than this fellow, or this fellow should have written something atrocious than you. कुछ तो होगा इसमें. Relative concept. ठीक है? Right? One more generalization that I was talking about is what? One more generalization that I was talking about is name. Right? नाम से सब काम. नाम से सब काम. कैसे sir? Should I tell you what is climate change? Change in climate. That's it. Don't you think so? Yes or no? Please understand, my dear. Now, don't get extremely professional in this. Sir, I will have to understand IPCC report's definition of climate change. Is it required? No. What is a jet stream? What is a jet stream? Stream which is moving like a jet. You're like, अरे sir, कैसे sir बताओ यार मेरे को. Stream which is moving like jet. इसका मतलब क्या है? How does a jet move? High speed. Where does a jet move? On my head, or where does it move? High altitude. Any wind system which is moving at high speeds at high altitude is jet stream. Beautiful. नाम से सबका. That whenever I see something which is related to geo, I will definitely say it is related to Earth. Whenever I see something which is related to helio, I will say it is related to Sun. Whenever I see something which is related to terra, on a later date we will see terrestrial, terra genus deposits. It is related to Earth or rock systems. Are you understanding? We will learn these systems of naming. I call it as etymological approach of understanding. Etymological understanding, right? Etymology works a lot in prelims, my dear, trust me. Should I prove? Right? सब प्रूव कर रहे हैं, right? LHS equals to RHS. सब चल रहा है कि नहीं? You get the answer, you don't get the answer. What you used to write बचपन में? LHS equals to RHS and you used to put a box around it. Forget about the maths, ma'am, whether they are giving you marks or not. It's a different issue. समझ रहे हो? Are you understanding? Right? Oh, I'll prove. How does etymology work? We will capacity build with respect to etymological approach. अब 2019 में एक क्वेश्चन था, Himalayan nettle was in news. Himalayan nettle was in news. In bracket they gave scientific name. I didn't know this only. What will I know scientific name? No use. I didn't know normal name only. Right? He gave. UPSC gave. And was in news, which is used for which of the following? They gave 4 options. पता नहीं. God knows. Right? Then I can't even play Inky Pinky Ponky here. I can't do that. 4 option है. Toys नहीं होगा. Dice. Right? Either if you get 6, then what will you put? Only 4 options. 6 means what? You will change the question? You can't. तो नहीं होगा. तो इसमें etymology की देख लो. Etymology means I'm going to work upon the word and I'm going to break upon the word. Now, sir, you told me to break upon the word, so I will break Himalaya into him plus Alaya. No, my dear, Himalaya is one word. I know. I know that. अब nettle में break करो. Nettle में I can definitely see a word. Net. Net. Net का मतलब क्या है? कुछ something which is related to cloth. Right? जाके देख लेना. Option D में textile करके एक option था. आ जाओ बाहर. वही तो आंसर है. Etymological approach. अब 2022 में एक क्वेश्चन था, Panam in history indicates what? History, right? Always has been mystery to me, at least. I didn't know. ज्यादा तो पता ही नहीं था यार. Panam. अब इसमें etymology देखो. Ana. Ana means which is related to coins. Option B was coins. Are you understanding? 2021 में एक क्वेश्चन था ट्राइक्लोसान. Triclosan, right? Triclosan is a chemical component seen in news. God knows, right? Which of the following was it used? We don't know anything about the product. How will I know where is it used? Right? 4 options were there. San, sanitary. इसमें san, इसमें san. Option D था toiletries. Etymological approach. Now you understood नाम से सबका करना चाहिए, right? We will slowly capacity build as we move across these things. As we move across these things, we will capacity build upon how to break a word with respect to geography and derive an answer from that. We'll look at those things, right? That is one generalization that I always keep emphasizing a lot on the subject. ठीक है? और what else कुछ बचा है क्या? One more? One more generalization that I was telling. I know that Earth has 2 hemispheres. इतना तो पता है. We'll slowly get into that. Next section, next 1 hour that we're going to get into is latitudes and longitudes. So basic वाला चीज, right? From tomorrow, our lecture will have last 15 minutes of mapping, right? I don't want to keep mapping as it is, because generally people consider mapping to be kept as one whole class. Now what will happen with that? Just like the earth rotating, your brain will also, or head will also rotate. It's a problem, right? And suddenly what will happen? You will put Australia in Africa. That's what will happen. And Afghanistan in Australia, God knows, right? Now that will be very hurting. Why Afghanistan won over Australia? Yes or no? Now Australia was knocked out fundamentally because of whom? Afghanistan. Nobody ever dreamt about that match, my dear. Right? Right? So what do we do is, as a kind of relaxation, as and when we get bored, we will look at those mapping which is related to that day's particular concept. इसका मतलब, आज we are going to discuss about equator, prime meridian, right? International date line. Today we will not have any mapping. From tomorrow we will start. We will look at those countries which are on equator. We will look at those countries which are on Tropic of Cancer. We will look at those countries which are on Tropic of Capricorn. We will look at those countries which are with respect to with respect to prime meridian. We will look at those states which are present with respect to IST, Indian Standard Time. From these topics, I will only have these 5 mapping areas, nothing more. So as and when we progress, sometimes I'll be discussing about plateaus. Sometimes I'll be discussing about islands. Sometimes I'll be discussing about deserts. Sometimes I'll be discussing about cyclones and the corresponding names of the cyclones in different regions. As is the concept, so is the map that we're going to do. Such that then on there itself, the mapping is crystallized and you have a conceptual backing of each of these mappings, right? And in most of the mappings, what do we see? Whenever I'm discussing about straits, isthmus, bay, gulf, I'll discuss about different bays. I'll show you different bays. We'll discuss about different isthmus, Panama Isthmus, Suez Isthmus. We'll discuss about different straits, Strait of Malacca, Strait of Makassar, Strait of Lombok, right? Bosphorus Strait, right? Strait of Otranto. We look at different states and the corresponding arrangements, right? This works. This works for us. Why? Because it's easy for us to remember on a daily basis. We'll look at incremental learnings with respect to mapping. Okay? And kabhi we'll look at mnemonics to remember these mappings. Right? You know, mnemonics goes on. Right? Market में भी चलते हैं. कुछ उधर से लिया, कुछ मैंने खुद बनाया. Right? So depends on whatever is a better way of remembering. For example, this year we had one question on North Sea. Yes, the mnemonic that I had made was NSG Fun BD. NSG Fun BD. Right? So I will be able to utilize these things. Right? And anyway, which is going on in the market for Baltic Sea kya hai? Rude, Germany sell Poland and Finland. That is a mnemonic. Rude, Germany, rude, RU, Russia, Denmark, Germany, Cell, SELL, Sweden, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Finland, Poland. So this is how we will approach the mapping systems with respect to mnemonics, with respect to the concepts, right? That we will do on a daily basis. Okay, that is going to be the structure of lecture. As and when it is required to be dictated, I would dictate, and I think you'll be getting your handouts as well. Okay, right? Now I know that in geography, I will definitely see that there is northern hemisphere which is present and there is southern hemisphere. Pata hai? And I know that equator, this division is what? Imaginary division. Why were people wanting to divide earth into two? इसका मतलब कुछ डिफरेंस है इसमें. इसका मतलब कुछ डिफरेंस है इसमें. क्या डिफरेंस था वो? What is the difference that made or that forced people to divide the earth into two? And where they put in an imaginary differentiation by the line called as equator. Equator is what? Imaginary. Latitudes are what? Imaginary. Longitudes are what? Imaginary. When you look at the fundamental reason, the concept in the northern hemisphere and the concept in the southern hemisphere are not same. And when you ask me, sir, what is the difference between the concepts of northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere? Although the concept is occurring, wind systems might be occurring, ocean currents might be occurring, or it might be the direction of the wind might be occurring. The ocean currents and the circulation and the gyre movements might be occurring. I see different phenomena occurring, but they are not same. What is the difference? The concept which is occurring in southern hemisphere is more uniform, is strong, is more regular compared to northern hemisphere. It is more strong, it is uniform, it is regular compared to northern hemisphere. Why is this happening? When I observe basically, when I look at the basic difference, why is this concept or why is this variation at all occurring? I'll see that it is fundamentally a variation due to distribution of land and water. I see that in the northern hemisphere, it is very, very uneven with respect to land and water. Somewhere I will have land, somewhere I will have water. It is very, very uneven distribution. When I have uneven distribution that is existing, I will definitely not expect uniformity. I will definitely not expect steadiness. I will definitely not expect regularity in the concept. But whereas when I look at the southern hemisphere, what do I see? I see it is majorly covered by what, my dear? Water. It is majorly covered by water. When it is majorly covered by water, it has uniform surface. It has uniform concepts. It has regular concepts. And just because it is uniform, just because it is regular, it is more strong. For example, when I'm teaching westerlies, the wind systems, westerlies means what? Which are originating from west. Yes or no? Yes or no? Right, one more generalization. Anything that is named in geography, anything that is named in geography anything that is named in geography is dependent on the region and its direction of origin. The region and its direction of origin. Yes, कुछ examples देख लेते हैं इसकी generalization के लिए. Now I say there is tropical easterlies. Tropical easterlies matlab, what is the character of that? It is originating where? Tropical. Easterlies matlab eastern direction or western direction? Originating from eastern direction. Because what is my principle in geography? Anything that is named in geography is dependent upon region of its origin and direction of its origin. Westerlies. Now, do you remember I was giving you one example for exception with respect to subtropical westerly jet stream? इसका character बताओ यार मेरे को. It is a jet stream. That means it is a stream which is moving like jet. Beautiful. Where is it originating? Subtropical. Where is it moving from? नाम से सब काम. Now you understood why I said naam se sab kaam, because anything in geography is named on its origin and direction. A jet stream which is originating in the subtropical region and moving from the western region is what is called a subtropical westerly jet stream. If somebody is telling polar easterlies, what does that mean? Polar region, eastward direction, originating from eastward direction. Beautiful. Are you understanding? Now try, my dear. Once if you go back, just spend half an hour आज के lecture के ऊपर, that take this generalization and start reading PYQs. Trust me, you will start making sense and you like, I learned whole geography. I don't need Gautam sir anymore. Right? Are you understanding this? Right? Try applying this. You will enjoy. You will definitely enjoy. Okay? Are you understanding? That means the difference in northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere, kya the difference? Distribution of land and water. Where is more water? Southern hemisphere. So more uniform, more regular, more steady, more strong in southern hemisphere. That is why when I'm teaching westerlies, I will tell you roaring 40s. Right? Yes or no? We will talk about these furious 50s. Why furious 50s, roaring 40s in southern hemisphere? Because it is more uniform. Why more uniform? Because more water compared to lands. Kitne generalizations ho gaye? No? We finished 9. We'll have one more generalization little later as we progress across the lecture. Is this clear? Right? Beautiful. You're understanding? Any doubts in this? So please explain again why northern hemisphere is more uneven. Why northern hemisphere is more uneven? Chumma open out your map. Map में क्या दिखते हैं? How my northern hemisphere looks like. If I see northern hemisphere, one of the most powerful continents will be there, and some central extension, something like this, South American region. Then I see this Fudu Africa. It's there. Then I see this European region. Then कुछ ऐसे India करके is Europe. Now see how clumsy northern hemisphere is. वो दिखता है कहीं इंडियन पार्क. इंडिया में कुछ पार्क है, उसमें क्या होगा? भीड़ ही भीड़ है. इधर क्या है? पूरा लैंड ही लैंड. Very crowded. Look at southern hemisphere. Organized, relaxed. It's an English system which is relaxed. Right? अब देखो, सिर्फ अफ्रीका थोड़ा और थोड़ा ऑस्ट्रेलिया. Some of you even don't realize that there is Australia. Are you understanding? More land, somewhere in middle, water. Here, more water, uniform. That is why I see a variation in difference of the concept. Is that clear, my dear online? I don't know who asked the doubt, but whoever asked the doubt, north versus south, is that clear? Okay, great. Is this clear? Okay. Now will. No. Why? Because anything which is imbalanced will not be uniform. And the only thing for something to be balanced, there has to be imbalance. Need not be, my dear. Because see, when I observe those things, always remember, geography is not a thing which is happening in this classroom. It is happening over a region. Now, one simple example I'll tell you, right? आप लोग कभी एक्सपीरियंस किया होगा कि फॉर सपोज बचपन में भी और अभी भी that suddenly it is raining here, But when you go to the Karol Bagh, actual that Rajendra Nagar, that street, that crossroads, there it is not raining. In this region itself, I see so much of variation. Now, do one experiment. When you're coming to tomorrow's class, before coming to tomorrow's class, कल आ रहे हैं ना आप लोग, right? ऐसे दिख रहा है यार मेरे को. Right? People are like, आना चाहिए क्या सर? बताओ, आप ही बताओ कुछ. Right? आ रहा है ना पक्का? And हम कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग डिस्कस कर लेंगे कल. Right? Subject, non-subject, outside subject, whatever you want. Right? But we will discuss more of subject, geography. क्यों? Because लोग को कुछ doubts है इसमें. क्या डाउट चल रहा है कि that sir, will the syllabus be finished in 1 year or not? हम बोल रहे हैं कितना 100 घंटे में खत्म हो जाएंगे पूरा. Nothing to worry at all. Nothing to worry at all. When I see so much of variation in this region, don't you think I will see so much of variation that is happening all over the world? Do one experiment. I was telling you, your class is at 2 o'clock, right? Now hopefully it doesn't rain tomorrow. Understanding? Just when you're walking, observe the clouds, right? Observe the clouds when you start, and after 100 meters, observe the clouds. You will not see a same cloud structure existing. In which distance? In how much distance? In a distance of 50 meters, I don't see something which is uniform. Can I see something uniform in such a magnitude of systems? Impossible. And I will also have to understand that these exceptions will definitely exist in what context, my dear? These exceptions will definitely exist in what context? That the magnitude of systems by themselves is very, very large. Now, when I say ocean, although I have drawn whole of my North America like this, very, very chutku format, but is it so small? The magnitude of the system is humongous. I'll say this is, maybe I'll say this is South Atlantic, this is North Atlantic, and I'll say this is South Pacific, and this is North Pacific. Look at the magnitude of the system. And when you look at the magnitude of the system, all of these generalizations will fall in place. All of these generalizations will fall in place because for us, we think many of our understandings are very, very miniaturized in nature. They're very, very small systems. Now, when I see a globe, I consider whole of my earth to be of this small size. Miniaturization of my understanding doesn't mean miniaturization of the concept. I'm only having a miniaturized representation, but the magnitude of the concept is maintained. Are you understanding this? Right? Keep these basic generalizations. I think rest of the things should fall in place to a larger extent when it comes to geography. Okay. Now, subject. We are entering into geography, right? The first thing that we're going to look into is latitudes and longitudes, right? Generally, people start geography with planetary system. अच्छा वो बच्चा है ना ठीक है all that you should have understood by now. When I say climate change, what is the parameter that is changing in climate change? Temperature. So any change in physical system will result in a change in a phenomena. That is there, right? Now let's see. You are asking me some doubt. I think this diagram will help me. Okay. Of Manlo, let me go for a bigger one. Now say this is South American region, first suppose. Right? Now here, what is the thing that I'm having? Pacific Ocean. Here I'm having Atlantic Ocean. Now let me consider this in a block diagram, right? Now say this is South American region. This is what? Pacific Ocean. This is what? Atlantic Ocean. Yes. East of land is west of sea. Right? East of land is west of sea. East of sea is west of land. That means, why am I giving you this? Sometimes I will say that most of the western margins of the continent Most of the western margins of the continent are characterized by desert formation is what is my statement. Can I also say the eastern margins of the oceans are characterized by deserts? Yes. Why? West of continent is east of ocean, and east of ocean is west of continent. West of ocean is east of continent. Go back and refer to 2021 question. In 2021 question paper in prelims examination, it was asking upon the impact of westerlies and tropical easterlies. But there, what did they say? They did not say the impact on land systems. They said that the impact on oceans. Now, 90% of the aspirants were confused there. Why? They said ocean systems. People did not pay attention to that small difference they had made. That means east of land will be experienced as similar to that of west of sea. And west of land will be experienced very similar to that of east of land. The difference is there. East of sea is west of land and west of sea is east of land. वही तो difference है. And across different concepts, you will experience this. On a later date, when I'm going to tell about El Nino, there I will say Eastern Pacific Ocean. Eastern Pacific Ocean is fundamentally the Western South American region. Yes, that is where I find this Atacama Desert. Atacama Desert is somewhere in this particular region. Somewhere here I find Atacama Desert. That means Atacama Desert is present where? The western side of South American region. Why? Because of the phenomena in eastern side of the Pacific Ocean. Samajh rahe ho or you understand it, right? So this is what is one small generalization that you will have to understand with respect to this variation. Okay. Now let's get into our business. Latitudes and longitudes. See, so far whatever we have done is subject. Now don't think, sir, two hours you have done time pass, now we are starting subject. No. What did we do for so far? For first 1 hour, we understood what are we going to study, what is the importance of geography. For next 1 hour, I spoke about the generalizations for understanding geography in better perspective. Now we are getting into a conceptual geography. So first, I dug the ground by talking about what are we going to discuss. Then I laid the foundation in the form of specialization. Now I am slowly building the walls of geography. Right? When we reach human geography and economic geography, we will finish our interiors of the house as well. That is how it's going to be. Now, when I look at latitudes and longitudes as a system, when I look at the genesis of this concept at all, why at all these systems emerge, or why at all these systems were present, if you have to understand, at the end of it, all of these systems of latitudes and longitudes is merely for our own convenience. Is merely for our own convenience. Now, why at all it is only for our own convenience is very simple. Now, for suppose say, I know that when I look at the shape of the earth, it is not completely spherical. Sometimes they say it is oblate sphere. Sometimes people say it is spheroid. Sometimes it is said spheroid. Oid means what, my dear? Like. Fibroid means like fiber. Spheroid means like sphere. This year there was one question, parasitoid, like parasites. So earth is not sphere, spheroid, like a sphere. And when you observe these systems like sphere, now just imagine, I'm staying in this place. I want to meet somebody who is here. How will I explain my Uber driver? Can I tell something? I can't. Right? If I tell, go straight, maybe he can go like this also. If I tell, go straight, okay, he's going. Now you will tell, take right. Beautiful. He took. That means what is happening? The positioning of an individual and the positioning of a particular concept becomes extremely difficult. And when people wanted to understand that in the same region, somewhere I'm finding ice cap, somewhere I'm finding desert, somewhere I'm finding high temperatures. And when I wanted to understand this variation that is existing, people could not categorically classify what is going on with respect to these systems. When people could not classify what is categorically going on with respect to these systems, then we wanted some systems of identification. When we wanted some systems of identification, when we wanted some systems of references, then emerged the concept of latitudes and longitudes. Basic understanding, right? I was telling that generally people start geography by planetary system. I don't want to do that for the reason that once I understand some basics of climatology, which is supposed to be the toughest part of geography to a larger extent. Why? Because it is extremely conceptual. Once I teach you the systems of climatology, then I will enter into planetary systems, right? Because the origin theories of the planets, those nebular hypotheses, those are very, very redundant these days. It is not much of importance when it comes to examination. So we'll finish climatology, then we will enter into planetary systems. Then we will understand our application of these two in understanding climate change. And most of us think that climate change is a phenomena which is understood from the side of anthropogenic causes. But you also have to understand there are natural reasons for climate change. For example, something like sunspots, we'll discuss. Something like Milan-Covid cycles, we'll discuss. Right? So then the natural systems of climate change can be understood. Then we will move into oceanography. This is what is going to be the order of our lectures. In case if you wish to read your basic sources, I would suggest basic sources as your NCRTs. Basic sources, your NCRTs, right? You can start from 6 to 10 for just picking up the momentum. But actual concept will be built up in your 11th and 12th class NCRTs. I would definitely suggest you to master them. Follow the classes, follow the handouts, follow the notes. Things will fall in place, more or less, right? More or less, you should fall in place. Okay. So when I say it is sphere, it is very, very difficult for me to identify. So what do? I need a system of reference. Now, in the context of reference, that is where we see the emergence of latitudes and longitudes. Now, moving further, I say that I wanted to go for an horizontal reference. And when I look at this horizontal reference is nothing but your latitudinal condition. And how do you define a latitude? I will not define it as a horizontal linear distance. No. What will I say? I would say it is a angular distance system. Why is it an angular system? Why is it an angular distance system? Because Earth is a spheroid. Earth is a spheroid, and what is going to happen is, just imagine if I'm going on cutting it linearly, I would definitely see some position being left out. I would definitely see some part of the Earth being left out, which is not part of my reference systems. And very, very difficult for me to understand the concepts which are happening in this region. So what do I majorly do? I would go for angular distance systems. That is why, how do I define latitude? I define latitude as horizontal angular distance system. And I will add one more word to this. Is it real system or imaginary system? It's an imaginary system. So that means, what is the fundamental meaning of this? I would say that any latitude is nothing but it's a angular reference imaginary system. It's an angular reference imaginary system. I'm using it for reference. It is an angular system, and more than anything, it is imaginary in nature. And as I see this latitudinal systems, I know that when I observe these latitudinal systems, when I see that for me to move forward or backward, I again need a reference point. I again need a reference point because it is spherical in nature. When it is spherical in nature, it is very, very difficult for me to observe certain things here. So in that context, what happens? I need a reference latitude. Latitude by itself was a reference line. But I need a reference latitude to divide my Earth into different latitudes. And that reference latitude is what is called as equator. The reference latitude is what is called as equator. And this is what, my dear, this is supposed to be the largest latitudinal dimension. This is the largest latitudinal dimension. And equator is dividing the earth into what, my dear? Equator is dividing the earth into two hemispheres. That is northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. Please keep writing all of this, right? I want you to keep writing, right? If you're comfortable listening and remembering, then it's fine. I don't have any issues, right? It's completely your choice. But if you ask me, so what is a better way? I would definitely expect you to keep writing at least some crisp and short notes, right? So that as you go back and refer, it becomes easy for you to understand. Okay. So I see equator as a phenomena that is existing. It is dividing the earth into northern and southern hemisphere. And I'm calling it as what, my dear? Angular systems. When I'm calling it as angular systems, what do I say? I say it is degrees. I refer it in degrees. So I see equator being a reference, I call it as 0 degrees. 0 degree latitude. And when I move up, what is the maximum point? 90 degrees. 90 degrees. That means when I look at the latitudinal representation, that is happening, what do I see with respect to latitudinal representation? I would see that from 0 degrees to 90 degrees, either north or south. That means wherever I see something being represented by north or south, that is latitudinal position. And what is the maximum range of any latitudinal position? Between 0 degrees to 90 degrees. Between 0 degrees to 90 degrees, and it is dividing the earth into two hemispheres. Now, once I understand these basic things, now when I look at the sufficiency of any latitude, if I look at the sufficiency of any latitude, is this latitude alone sufficient for me to understand a phenomena? No. Why? Because for suppose if I say this particular point, how will I define this particular point? I don't have a definite system to define this particular point. I can tell it maybe it is at 10 degrees north. I can tell that. But 10 degrees north can be this point, 10 degrees north can be this point, 10 degrees north can be this point, 10 degrees north can be this point. But when I want to specify something on 10 degrees north, I need something which is vertical aspect. Because I need two systems for a point to be formed. And in that context, we see the emergence of what, my dear? We see the emergence of longitude. We see the emergence of longitude. And how do we define this longitude, or how do you understand longitude? It is as usual, it is reference. It is as usual, it is imaginary. Is it real or imaginary? Imaginary. And as usual, it is angular system. It is angular system. I cannot have a linear longitudinal system, because I know that if I keep on cutting my earth like this, I see that some part of it will be left out. When you cut your apple, all of the parts will be equal. If you, unless and until you cut along its circumference, it's a different issue. But just like latitudes and longitudes, if you cut, what will happen? Will apple be the same? Same size pieces will be there? No. But when I go for an angular slicing, I would see similar size pieces coming into the picture. Basic understanding. And when I look at the longitudinal range, again for longitudinal ranges, again for understanding the systems vertically, I need some reference. And that reference is what is called as prime meridian. That reference is what is called as prime meridian. What was the reference latitude? Called as equator. Reference longitude is prime meridian. When I observe these systems, it is longitude and latitudinal system, when it is prime meridian system which is existing. And when I look at the range of longitudes that is present, when I observe the range of longitudes that is present, what do I see? I see that from 0 degrees, because this is again a reference thing, 0 degrees. But how is it? Now just imagine if this is my Earth. If this is my Earth, now just imagine my knuckle position is the prime meridian. Right? Just observe how is the chalk moving from here to here. This is what, 90 degrees or 180 degrees? You would have had your protractor. When you're bachpan mein, you have your geometry box. In that protractor was making how much? 180 degrees. Now this is 180 degrees. So this knuckle is what? The prime meridian condition that is existing. That is a reference. From there, if I move 180, from there, if I move 180. Either I'm moving on the east or either I'm moving on the west. Basic understanding. So in the similar manner, I see it is varying from 0 to 180 degrees. And what is my reference? East or west? I'm moving from 0 to 180 degrees, east or west. Are you understanding? Yes. So range of latitudes is 0 to 90, north or south. That means if somebody is telling you 70 degrees north or north, is that latitude or longitude? Latitude. If somebody is telling 100 degrees north, can it exist? No. Why? Because the range is what? 0 to 90 degrees. If somebody is telling 100 degrees west, it is longitude. Right? And your longitudes are dividing the earth into east and western spheres. Equator or your latitudes are dividing into north and south aspects. Now, with that basic understanding, we would slowly move into one particular dimension of discussion. That if at all I'm having latitudes and longitudes, I know that it will be having some relevance. And when I look at the relevance, I see that in the context of latitude, the relevance of latitude, when I want to understand the relevance of latitude, I see that this is what is used in whole of my geography. For me to understand whole of my physical geography, I use the systems of latitudes. Why? When I get to observe the systems of latitudes and when I get to see the systems of latitudes, what do I see to a larger extent is I see a variation across latitudes happening with respect to one particular parameter. And when I look at that particular parameter in that context, that is the parameter of temperature. That is the parameter of temperature. Across different latitudes, I see a variation in temperature. Sometimes at equator, there is a different temperature. Here, there is a different temperature. Here, there is a different temperature. Here, there is a different temperature. And I observe that when I start my understandings on climatology, I would see that whole of the climatology will be fundamentally determined by this beautiful parameter called temperature. Temperature will determine what is the pressure. Temperature will determine what is the moisture holding capacity or what is the humidity. Temperature will determine what is the wind speed. Temperature will determine what is the cloud structure. That means anything and everything in geography is going to be determined by whom? Temperature. And for me to understand the variation in temperature, what is happening? For me to understand the variation in temperature, I am understanding through what? Latitudinal systems. Go for the 10th generalization. लिख लो एक generalization लिख लो. When we study geography, we focus on geocentric studies geocentric studies, not heliocentric studies. Not heliocentric studies. We focus on geocentric studies, not heliocentric studies. What do you understand by this? What is our general belief, general observation? That sun is at the center of our planetary system. And what is happening? All the satellites are moving in a elliptical orbit. Basic understanding. Yes. Now just imagine, I know that whole of my geography is studying about my beautiful earth. And I know that the nature of the earth will be determined what is its interaction with sun. Yes. Yes or no? From where am I getting this temperature? Solar insolation. Now, in heliocentric studies, I keep sun at the center and the earth is moving around the sun. When the earth is moving around the sun, that means which is a static system, which is a dynamic system? Earth is a dynamic system, sun is a static system. Now, in general, when I want to study something, I can't study a thing which is dynamic in nature. For me to study something, what is the variation? I will have to keep the entity static, then vary the other parameters to study what is the impact on the static entity. Basic. So what are we going to do in our geography studies for next few days? We will keep the earth static and we will make the sun move. Why? It's a concept of relative velocity. Simple example is when you're moving by a train. You see a tree standing actually, but when you're moving, the tree also appears to be moving in opposite direction. Is the tree actually moving? No. That means if I'm keeping in general, if the sun is at the center who is static, if the earth is moving, if I keep the earth static, don't you think the sun will appear to move? Yes. Over my lectures, you will keep listening to a statement called limited movement of the sun. But actually, who is moving? Earth. For our understanding about the principles over the earth and the changes which is happening over the earth, I'm making who move? Sun move. That means who is at the center now? Earth. That is why I'm talking about geocentric. Geo means earth. Earth static, rest other systems are moving. Are you understanding this? Right? Maybe in tomorrow's section, you will get to understand how is the movement of the sun varying across latitudes. You see, I use the statement now. Movement of the sun varying across latitudes. Why? Because I want to study the impact of temperature on the earth system. When I want to study the impact of the temperature on the earth system, I will keep earth static. Then only I will be able to understand better what is happening on the earth. Are you understanding? Is it making sense? Yes. As we progress, you will get to understand better. Right? For now, it's just a generalization that I was talking about. Nothing to worry. Okay. So what first section we will try finishing on longitudes. First, we'll try finishing on longitudes because it's a small section. And longitude is only used for one particular purpose. Then we will slowly start getting into the systems of latitudes. Now, when I look at longitude, as a system, what do I see with respect to longitude as a system? I would see, when I talk about the longitude as a system, what I would see? One thing that I would see here is it is being used only for the application of time. It is being used only for the application of time. That means what is it observed? That for suppose say if this is the prime meridian, and from prime meridian if I am moving, I see that there is a variation of time that is existing. There is a variation of time that is existing irrespective whether I am moving towards the eastern side or western side. Irrespective whichever direction I'm moving, I'm seeing this variation of time to be present there. Now, when I see these systems, how is this time varying across these different longitudes is my question. Time is nothing but what? The amount of variation in the brightness. In the evening, I see more darkness than being bright. In the mornings, what do I see? I see it being more bright compared to darkness. That is what is a simple variation with respect to time. My basic crude understanding. You would have heard about this Jantar Mantar, natural clock systems. Depending upon the insolation, I see that they were talking about the time period. Sometimes depending upon my nature of the shadow. In last year current affairs, there was one statement called zero shadow day. What is zero shadow day? Don't you think every day I will have a moment of zero shadow? Every day I will have a moment of zero shadow. That means when the sun is directly over my head, will I have any shadow? No shadow. Either the sun should be this side, or either sun should be this side for me to have some shadow to be existing there. But otherwise, I don't have any shadow to be present if the sun is directly over my head. That is what is zero shadow. Right? So this simple variation is what is seen to be changing the time that is existing. Now, my simplest understanding is after the observation, you see that for every 1 degree variation, that means if I move from 0 degrees to 1 degree longitude, for every 1 degree variation, what do I see? I see that there is a variation of 4 minutes. There is a variation of 4 minutes. So each movement of 1 degree will result in a variation of 4 minutes. Now, to make it half an hour, I need how many degrees of variation? 7.5 degrees of variation to make it 30 minutes. 7.5 degrees of variation to make it 30 minutes. Basic understanding. 15 degrees to make it what, my dear? 1 hour. That means, if say there is a country A here, if there is a country B here, if the time here is say 1 p.m. and if the time here is 2 p.m., that means what is it implying? It is implying that this country A and country B are divided by 15 degrees longitudes. Basic understanding. Now see, the total number of degrees in the earth is how many, my dear? 360. Why? Because it is a sphere. Now let's see, 360 by 15 degrees. How much it is turning into? 24. Now did you understand why your day will only have 24 hours? Why? Because they can divide the earth into 24 1-hour zones. Because at the end of the day, this is a system of what, my dear? Convenience. All of the concept of latitude and longitude by itself was a system of administration, was a system of understanding. Right? Sometimes when you're preparing in UPSC, you would want to have 28 hours out of 24 hours. You would feel like doing that. Especially day after tomorrow, your mains exam will be starting. And what you will feel like having? At that moment, you will feel like thinking about one moment that whole of the world or whole of the time stops at that moment. And such that we have all the time to revise whole GS in one day. Right? Till that point, you will not have that realization. What you will think? A system of procrastination will go on. आज ठीक है 7 घंटे बहुत हो गए कल देख लेंगे टुमारो 6 घंटे बहुत हो गया इंक्रीज और डिक्रीज डिक्रीज उसके बाद 5 घंटे क्यों 5 घंटे क्योंकि पिछले 2 दिन you studied 7 hours 6 hours you are tired now you study only for 5 hours and slowly what will happen now you would have heard about Monday motivation and Sunday hangover क्या चलता है that Sunday you think that no I have worked a lot in this week so let me take off and by the evening of Sunday you will be in such a regret that no I have wasted a lot of time now is 70 minutes The check the India feeling will come in you, and you will get up at 4 o'clock on Monday. And the people around you will be perplexed. Is everything all right, my dear? No, you will say, yes, it's 70 minutes. I'm ready. Monday, you will push for 12 hours. Beautiful. And when you're sleeping on the Monday evening, you will be like, wow. And your walking style also will change. You will be like, ready, chalo aise. Why? Because now you're more confident that you studied 12 hours. बढ़िया हो गया. Tuesday, what will happen? No, कल मैंने 12 घंटा पढ़ा. आज 10 काफी है. बहुत है. Right? My eyes are paining. तो काफी है. No, I studied 10 hours yesterday. Let me study 8. काफी. This too will compensate here. Okay, beautiful. CSAT इधर काम आ रहा है. देखो. People were telling time and distance, clocks and calendars, इधर काम आ रहे हैं. बस. And slowly, what is happening? 8 will become 6. 6 will become 4. 4 will become 2. 2 will become 0. Geometric progression or arithmetic progression? AP चल रहा है with D being negative factor. So consistency important है. Right? Everybody will only have how many hours? 24 hours. Why? Because I can divide my earth only into 24 1-hour zones. 24 1-hour zones. So let's move further. Now, generally, UPSC once upon a time used to ask certain calculations on this, but they're not asking it anymore. But just for our own satisfaction and keeping things equipped, we will look into some chutku sa calculations, right? Nothing much. Now, before getting into those calculations, I just want you to have some understanding that this is prime meridian. I know this is east. I know this is west. Now, I know that I would either move towards the east, or I know that I would either move towards the west. And you please understand that this is also movement towards east, and this is also movement towards west. This is also movement towards east. This is also movement towards west. Now, east and west does not mean east of prime meridian, west of prime meridian. No. East and west simply means what? Movement. The direction of the movement. Now, one simple understanding is, it is said that as you move east, across the longitudes, it is said that you will gain time, so that whenever you do some calculations with respect to time difference, you will have to add. I'll tell you the logic why, don't worry. And when I'm moving west, they say that you would lose time and you will have to subtract, or you will have to minus the time. Now, what do you mean by this subtraction and what do you mean by addition in this context? Very simple. Now, can somebody give me a reason for this? Why at all did I frame this logic here? What is the nature of the movement? How does the earth move? East to west. Sun rises from? My dear, decide. Sun rises from east. So earth is moving from west to east or east to west? West to? Please decide. Right? Which side is it moving? West to east. Now, when the earth is moving from west to east and the sun is rising in the east, now don't you think it would appear, for suppose like in the eastern regions, for take example, you're in Arunachal Pradesh, manlo. In Arunachal Pradesh, 5 o'clock in the morning will appear like 7 o'clock in the morning. Why? Because of sun rising faster. You see, that is the first incidence of sunlight, insolation. That is why as I move east, what is happening? I'm going to gain time. I will have to add. Why 5 was appearing like 7. So what did I do? I added 2. Are you understanding? Basic things. Now, with that basic thing, let's see some chutku calculations, what is going on. For suppose say, now, say, I'm on 90 degrees east, right? I'm on 90 degrees east. Now, I want to meet a person who is in 15 degrees west. I want to meet a person who is in 15 degrees west, right? Now, when I'm starting to meet this person who is in 15 degrees west, here the time is 12 p.m. What should be the time here? At 12 p.m. at 90 degrees east, right? For me, I'm starting at 12 p.m. According to him, what time did I start? Think. 5 a.m., 9:30, 9 p.m., 7 a.m. Okay. Let's simplify. इतना complexity है ही नहीं यार इसमें. Let's see, right? What I'm telling. So automatically I will draw this. Say this is prime meridian. For suppose say this is 90 degrees east. From 90 degrees east, I will have to move to 0 first. Then from 0, I will have to move to 15 because 15 degrees west. So totally, how many degrees did I move? 105 degrees. 105 degrees by 15 degrees, how many? It is 7 hours. It is 7 hours. Now, as am I moving west or am I moving east? I'm moving west. If I'm moving west, will I subtract the or will I add? I will subtract. That means here the time was 12 p.m. What should have been the time here? 12 minus 7 means it is 5 a.m. We'll do one more, don't worry. Right? We'll do one more. Now, for suppose say, let's take some common example. Okay. Ab मान लो, there is somebody in 90 degrees west. There is somebody in 90 degrees west, right? And you would have to wish them at 12 a.m. for their birthday. And because कुछ लोग नाराज हो जाते हैं, like you don't wish them, like you don't bother about me, right? You don't love me anymore. सब है इसमें. So in case if let's take this condition that 90 degrees west 12 a.m. मान लो. Now I am on 90 degrees east. I'm on 90 degrees east. What time should I call so that I'm wishing this individual at 12 a.m. in the morning? 12 p.m. 12 p.m. Is it so? Yes? What is my simplest calculation? First, I know from here, I know I will have to move 90. From here, I will have to move 90. So total how many? 12 hours. I'm moving east or west? East. Yes, I'm moving east. That means am I adding or adding? So 12 a.m. plus 12 will become 12 p.m. So in the afternoon at 12 p.m. when I call the individual who is staying at 90 degrees west, I will be able to wish that individual in the morning. Are you understanding? All that I have done is what, my dear? My direction of movement is direction towards the unknown. You see this? Wherever I have put the question mark, towards that direction I am moving. In this particular statement also, what? 90 degrees, 12 a.m. the time was known. But here I don't know. So that means I'm moving towards east. I'm moving towards the direction of unknown. एक और कर ले. Let's see one more, right? Now, I'm on 15 degrees east, right? I'm there on 15 degrees east, right? My UPSC prelims is at 9:30 p.m. Sorry, 9:30 a.m. अभी PM नहीं बना यार, right? 9:30 a.m. Okay. Now somebody is praying for me that I qualify this examination, right? What time exactly they should start their prayer if somebody is staying at 75 degrees east? Tell me. You understood my question? Don't worry, you will experience also. Right? I'm telling, I'm attempting my exam at 15 degrees east at 9:30 a.m. And somebody who is wishing well for you is praying for you at 75 degrees east. What time should that individual start his or her prayer for you to qualify prelims exam? Batao. Huh? 12:30, 1:30. Decide कर लो यार एक. What is my simplest understanding? 15 degrees to 75 degrees. Total how many? It is not 90, it is 60. Why? Because east. Here I don't have to travel up to prime meridian. I'm already on the east of prime meridian. So I will be traveling only 60 degrees. 60 degrees means 60 degrees by 15. How much? 4 hours. Will I be adding or subtracting? I will add because I'm moving east. So 9:30 plus 4 will become how much? 1:30 p.m. That is why I told you it is not with respect to the movement across the prime meridian, but either I'm moving east or I'm moving west. Basic calculations, right? UPSC is although not asking, but we will have to be little equipped with this in case if they go for questioning on this. That is the only thing. Otherwise, there's no other reason why we are doing this. Okay. Now, one more small concept that we have to understand with respect to the longitudes as a phenomena. Your class is still 5? 4:30? Oh. I was thinking till 5. I was in momentum also. Right. Were you getting bored? Were you learning something? Achha, I didn't know this. Okay. So if I start this, it will go for 15 more minutes. Then first day itself, you will be like, Kal se nahi aayega main. I will not come to this fellow's class. This fellow is pulling the class. Right? Then maybe we'll stop for today and continue from here tomorrow. Okay. Continue from here tomorrow. Okay. One thing that I want you to do today is to enjoy tomorrow's lecture even more. Apply all of these generalizations on PYQs and verify and come. So that if you have some doubts, you can get back. Right? Thank you, my dear.